Have you ever asked yourself, if a machine from the future was sent back to the past, how would it change the world? In the 20th century, humans still had to fight against nature with sweat and strength reclaiming land, handling mountains of waste, or ridging potato rows. Everything was costly and exhausting. But what if these destructive technologies had already been present since 1930? This is the story about superior machines that could rewrite all of history, turning the most exhausting tasks into a performance of sheer power. Let's start with the greatest challenges of the era: reclaiming farmland and handling waste. Reclaiming farmland at the beginning of the 20th century was always a nightmare. Farmers had to use axes, crowbars, and even explosives to remove tree stumps, a brutal battle, both draining and extremely dangerous. But if in 1930 the Strongen Killer had appeared, the whole face of agriculture would have changed. This was a stump-pulling machine with destructive strength, a giant hydraulic arm pressing up to 500 kN, gripping the stump tightly and breaking the entire root system within seconds. The high-pressure hydraulic system, up to 320 bar, with a flow rate of 160 liters per minute, allowed it to work fast and aggressively. With the ability to rotate 360, the Strongen Killer attacked from every direction, pulling stumps completely out of the ground. Its wear-resistant steel construction allowed it to withstand maximum force with minimal maintenance costs, while diverse joints allowed it to be attached to many different machine systems. If this technology had been born early, millions of hectares of wild land in America, Europe, or Southeast Asia could have been reclaimed at an unprecedented speed. Millions of hectares of new farmland would have quickly turned into fields, and food production would have exploded. But the price might have been that primeval forests disappeared even before World War II. At the same time, another nightmare was waiting to be solved: millions of expired cars piled up in junkyards, taking up space, causing pollution, and taking years to decompose. But if in the 1930s the Moros HP 110 shear had appeared, everything would have been different. Nicknamed the steel monster of the recycling industry, its operating process was both brutal and fascinating. Cars were placed on the feeding table. Hydraulics pressed them tightly. Then a giant blade came down, tearing the car frame apart like a hot knife sliding through butter. In just seconds, a car that once rolled on the street was reduced to neat steel blocks. Not only cutting, the HP 110 also compressed the excess metal, pressing it into high-quality steel blocks ready for recycling. If this technology had existed in the 1930s, the recycled steel industry would have exploded decades earlier. Metal junkyards would have disappeared, replaced with abundant raw material for construction, and even for the weapons industry in wartime. America, Europe, or Japan could have saved enormous quantities of iron ore. But along with that, this terrifying recycling power might have made wars even more intense, when recycled steel was ready to be turned into tanks, warships, and guns. The Moros HP 110 shear an industrial ballet that was both ruthless and mesmerizing, turning waste into wealth. Now, let's come to the fields. If you think farming was simple, imagine having to pick every single stone or ridge, every single potato row by hand. At the beginning of the 20th century, ridging for potatoes or other root crops was still completely manual. The work was exhausting and inaccurate. But if in the 1930s the grimy GH8 had existed, everything would have been different. This was an 8-row ridging machine, able to adjust spacing from 75 to more than 90 centimeters, suitable for many kinds of crops. With a wide range of plowshare options, the GH8 could easily adapt from light sandy soils to heavy clay soils, always ensuring to create precise, evenly spaced ridges. Its solid construction allowed it to operate durably, while its flexible adjustment system let farmers maintain ideal conditions for crops to grow. Next, on fields full of stones and debris, preparing soil by hand used to be an endless hardship. But if at that time there had been the EAM Misano RSHM 145, everything would have been completely different. This was a specialized machine for microtractors with a working width of 1.45 meters, capable of burying stones and impurities under a refined layer of soil, creating ideal seed beds. Thanks to its reverse-rotating rotor equipped with hardened steel blades, the soil was lifted, screened, and left with the fine fraction on top. And then, harvest season came. Instead of digging each tuber by hand, farmers surely dreamed of a machine like the Grimm 6 T470. This was a modern self-propelled harvester, designed to handle various soil types and harvest 4 rows of potatoes at once, ensuring clean and intact tubers. Its bunker held up to 7 tons of potatoes, with a continuous circulating conveyor system that kept it working non-stop, reducing downtime and increasing productivity. Everything was easily controlled from a premium, comfortable cab, providing maximum accuracy and comfort for the operator, even on the most difficult fields. The agricultural revolution would not have stopped there. It was a closed process, from soil preparation to planting. In the past, preparing seedbeds was a tiring sequence of work, taking weeks. But if in the 1930s there had been the McFarland Quadratill, a primary tillage tool, it could have performed many tasks in just one pass across the field, loosening the soil, evenly mixing crop residue, and leveling the field surface. That way, it reduced erosion while creating ideal seedbeds for the new season. And with planting, instead of people bending down to place each seedling in the soil, the dual 12 Gold EM Chie and Magi mini plug planter would have brought a revolution. This semi-automatic machine could plant tomatoes in 2 rows, 3 ridges at once, with a 12-cup rotating system that allowed one operator to plant up to 5,000 tolerant 7,000 tolerant seedlings per hour. The spacing between plants could be adjusted flexibly, while an auxiliary system simultaneously laid drip irrigation tubes along each ridge, making planting more precise and water-efficient than ever. If these technologies had appeared early, agriculture would have entered a fully mechanized era, from handling stones and soil to mass planting, all in just a few mechanical steps. The yields of vegetables, especially cash crops and tomatoes, could have skyrocketed since the 1930s. Would such a future have been better? The answer is more complicated than you might think, especially in the context of America. From the economic and social perspective, such a future would certainly bring many benefits. Early mechanization could free up agricultural labor, allowing millions of people to move into booming industries. Productivity would skyrocket, promoting the development of cities, railroads, and factories. The American economy, already strong, would accelerate even further, potentially surpassing all other great powers and strengthening its superpower position. Mass metal recycling would not only clean up junkyards, but also provide abundant raw materials, helping the U.S. reduce dependence on mining, a major problem during the preparation for war. However, from the ethical and environmental perspective, the answer would be different. This technology could have become a double-edged sword. The destructive power of the Strongen Killer could accelerate the exploitation of natural resources, turning vast primeval forests into plains in just a few years. This lightning-fast agricultural and industrial development might have created a new West, not built by human strength, but by machines, with heavy consequences for the environment. And especially when recycled steel from the Moros HP 110 became abundant, the U.S. defense industry would have had a huge advantage. The production of tanks, warships, and guns would have been accelerated, potentially making World War II more intense, longer, and more devastating. These technological advancements, while bringing prosperity, could also have turned into tools for a more catastrophic war. So, would it have been a better future, or not? Perhaps it would have been a trade-off: prosperity and power in exchange for the price of nature, and a war that could have become even more terrifying. What do you think? If you were an inventor in 1930, would you dare to reveal these machines? Leave your opinion in the comments below.